everybody, my name's Elizabeth and welcome back to my channel. Well, today I am not taking you out anywhere and I'm not really doing anything fun or talking about any fun trips. But I still think that it's a good thing to talk about because it has to do with being single and living alone and what to do when maybe something unexpected and not too pleasant happens. And that is, if you have been watching my channel for the last couple months or weeks, you know that I broke my leg a couple months ago and I'm still recovering. And it has, of course, put a damper on me being able to go out and do fun stuff and take you with me and show you what it's like to do this fun stuff by myself. But it has presented a whole new experience and whole new challenges. And I realized, hey, if I'm going to show you what it's like to have fun by yourself when you're a single person, maybe it's not a bad idea to talk about the other side of things and what it's like when it's not so fun and you have to deal with something kind of extreme by yourself. So for those of you who maybe haven't seen my past videos where I've talked about my broken leg and what happened, I'm just gonna give you a really quick rundown on what happened and where I'm at right now. So in the end of February, I was walking actually to pick up my car from the mechanic, and it was snowy and icy, and I had gotten to like the sidewalk that runs outside of the mechanic shop. And there's maybe like a 5-foot space of grass, that separates the sidewalk from their parking lot. And I was being lazy, and I was like, I don't want to walk all the way down there to, the driveway and have to go in and then cut back. And I can, I'm going to walk down a couple feet to where it's not such a, it's not that steep of an incline. There was a little incline, but, and just cut through the grass and it'll be fine. I'll be fine. Well, I was not fine. I cut through the grass, which was snowy and icy. And I slipped, and there was a lot of very graceful flailing. It looked wonderful to all the cars that were waiting at the stoplight behind me. And I felt it break, and I then hit the ground. Well, luckily, I wasn't in the middle of nowhere or anything, so actually one of the mechanics saw me fall and called 911 for me. EMTs came very quickly. Not as quickly, when you're sitting in the snow and ice with a broken leg, it feels a lot longer, but they were there probably in, less than 10 minutes, maybe even less than 5 minutes. It really wasn't very long. And they were very kind. 3 very kind men came up to me and said, "So you think you broke your leg, huh?" And I was like, "I'm pretty sure I broke my leg." And very kindly, they kind of said, "We'll be the judge of that." Because, I think they get probably a lot of calls where someone says, "Oh, I broke something." And then, they were just bruised or sprained or something. And they took one look at my leg and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's broken. You're right." And so I'm not going to tell you my whole, 3-day in the hospital experience, but essentially, let me put you down so I can give you a visual example. So I broke both of the bones in my shin. So the tibia and the fibula, and they were basically the first x-ray that I saw at the hospital, the only one I saw before my surgery, the bones were essentially like that. The 2 pieces of the bones were kind of like that. And so that's how we broke my leg. It required surgery, as you would expect. And what they did is they made an incision above my knee and inserted a metal rod behind my kneecap and into my tibia. So my tibia now has a titanium, they call it a nail, but it's a rod running down the middle of my bone, like it's inside my bone, giving it support. And that'll stay there. I'll have a metal rod inside my bone for the rest of my life. That's held in place at the moment with 6 screws. At the moment, the screws are going to stay too. I had my surgery and everything. And anyway, I'm not going to tell you the whole story about being in the hospital. I was only in the hospital for 2 nights. One thing that was just very beneficial for me was that my mom was able to stay with me for the first 2 weeks, because after they discharged me the day after my the day after my surgery, and they told me that I was not allowed to put any weight on that leg, on the leg that was broken. Basically, what they described it to me, they said you can rest it on the ground. They said, but any weight that you put on it should not be enough to break an egg, which I essentially was like, okay, so you mean no weight at all. So, and so basically, like in those first 2 weeks, I had a walker, still have a walker. But like if I was standing at the sink to brush my teeth, I would just like rest my foot on the ground just so it wasn't so tiring lifting it. But all the weight would be on the other leg. And as you can imagine, that was very tiring. And so it really limited anything I could do, just because even going to the, and filling up a glass of water at the fridge was tiring, to get over there, then to stand there on one leg and to kind of have to lean over while you're doing that to like fill up So, those first 2 weeks, if my mom would not have been able to stay with me for those first 2 weeks, I think they would have recommended that I go into like an assisted living center. Which thank goodness I didn't have to, because it's so much better to like be in your own home than it would have been to be with strangers at somewhere I didn't know and things like that. So, I was just so blessed that my mother was able to take a little time off work and come and stay with me, and really my mother's wonderful. I'll just leave it at that, and she really, really helped me. So at the end of those first 2 weeks, I had my first follow-up with the surgeon, and he gave me permission to start putting like 50% weight on that leg. And so at that point, my parents decided, my mom was going to go back to Illinois with my dad, and I would be okay getting around by myself. But my parents did come back like the following weekend, and helped me out with some stuff around the house, like did some laundry for me and stuff like that. And then went back to Illinois for the week, and then came back the following weekend for my next follow-up with the surgeon. And it kind of went on like that, for those first couple of weeks, they would come back and forth. But I was finally able to start putting more weight on it, and was able to switch from the walker to a cane, and life got much, much easier after that. But from week 2 through week 9, I was here by myself, and, I had to use a walker to get around and things like that, and didn't have a ton of, I was here. I didn't have a ton of help. I did have people helping me, and again, I'll go into that, but, my main day-to-day, I was here by myself and had to figure out stuff by myself. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about, and kind of explain how I did it, and things that made it easier in case, on the off chance that something like this might happen to you and you have to figure out how to do things by yourself, then maybe it'll make things a little easier for you. So, sorry, that was long-winded. I didn't intend to go into that much detail about the injury and stuff, but I want to just kind of give you maybe like a tour of my home and kind of explain the different areas, and how my life has been for the past 12 weeks now, and how I was able to get by when my mother was not here to help me. So yeah, let me show you around a bit. Okay, well, welcome to my home. Let me show you how I made it easier for myself, or how my parents helped make it easier when they were here. The first thing that they did when they were here, like before they brought me home from the hospital, is move my coffee table, which was usually in front of my couch. Right there, they moved the chair so that I would have a big, nice open area to walk and get around places. So that was one thing that they did. This is the walker that I used for the first, 9 weeks, essentially, because it's more stable, and I was, while I couldn't put weight on my leg, this is the walker I used. I did borrow this from my cousin, who broke his ankle several years ago. And so thank you, Joshua, for letting me borrow that. He also loaned me the wheelchair that's back there that we'll get to. And then once I was able to start putting full weight on it, but I still wanted a little stability, I switched to this walker, which my parents, it used to belong to my grandparents, and my parents brought it when I was starting to get a little more mobile. this thing on the front. It was originally hooked to my other walker too. I've been calling it my saddlebag, which I don't know. I guess it made me feel better that I was like, I don't know, picturing a horse when I was using the walker to get around. But that was kind of essential because using the walker, you need both hands. And so it's impossible to carry anything, from one room to another. So that used to be affixed to the front of that walker. And then I kind of, it was not meant to go on a walker like that. So I kind of fudged it and fit it onto that walker. But even with the seat, the stuff falls off the seat. Like if I have a water bottle, the water bottle is not sitting on the seat. So it goes in the saddlebag. I'm using it less and less now because I am walking. I still need to have the boot on because my leg is still healing. But you can see I also have my cane there, and I started using the cane at about 9 weeks. So yeah, that's how I've been getting around, and I'm so grateful that I am no longer having to use the walker. I have been required to keep my leg elevated and ice it frequently. And I'm still really supposed to do that for, a good part of the day just because my bone, specifically my fibula, is still healing. I tried to start here, but this chair, it looks comfy and squishy, and it kind of is, but then sitting there for a really long time really starts to hurt your back. And plus, it was very limiting to what position I could sit in. So it actually ended up being kind of not the best option for me with my leg. So I had to switch to the couch pretty quick. And I've been this has been my home base for, during the day, every day for the last 3 months. So it's a little messy looking right now. Well, it's always kind of messy looking when, for the last couple months. But let me move the walker. That's how I've been propping my leg up. The normal pillows, the purple pillows, were not getting it quite high enough for the in-home nurse that was coming. And so I also used that pillow to kind of get it a little higher. The blanket here that's been folded has just made it a little comfier. Because otherwise, like with the cushions and stuff, I don't know, your butt starts to kind of sink in and stuff like that, as evidenced by the way the blanket is kind of going in. But having the blanket there just kind of evened everything out and made it much more comfortable. I need to straighten it out. And then that blanket was, if I got cold. And then I have my ice packs there. I was icing my leg just a few minutes ago, and I haven't put them back in the freezer yet. But yeah, so that was kind of my home base for, well, it still is until, I'm able to be up and about again. And that's where I would sit and also work. And actually, because I was able to keep doing my job over the last couple months. So I'm lucky enough that my job, even in normal times, I'm allowed to work from home 10 days per month. So when this happened, I notified my supervisor right away. And basically, I just had to have my surgeon submit paperwork to my office to get permission for them to allow me to work at home for an extended period of time. So originally I was approved to work from home basically through almost the end of May. I recently just had to resubmit to have it lengthened because my leg is taking longer to heal than originally hoped for. And so I notified the surgeon and said, hey, can you, request to have it extended? Because again, I'm still supposed to keep it elevated and keep it iced, and I cannot do that if I'm sitting at a desk in an office. So that is in the process of going through, but it's, from what I've heard from my supervisor, it's it just needs to be approved by the higher ups. So I'm not sure much longer I'll be working from home, but I was just very blessed that I had the option, because not everybody has that option. So it's helped me to keep some semblance of a normal schedule in life. But I did have to pick up at least one piece of furniture, I guess, to make it easier for me. So let me show you that. Okay, so you can see my laptop there in that little stand. I'm cheap, so I got kind of one that was kind of cheap, but I also I don't like things that aren't pretty. And so I could have gotten one that was maybe a little, let me kind of get a better angle. I don't want to show you the other side because my laptop is on, but So I could have gotten one that like extended more over the couch and things like that, but I'm cheap and I don't like things that don't look pretty. So I got this one because it had a wood look to it, and it was, relatively inexpensive. And yeah, I made it work. So it kind of stays there when I'm not using it, and then I'm able to reach it from the couch and kind of slide it over to me when it's time to work. So that's how I've been like doing my job during the day. Also, you'll notice behind on the other side of it, between the couch and my little desk, is a bench that came from the table over there. We realized pretty quickly, my mother and I, that I was going to need to have some place to put stuff, and that was within reach, and so we just slid that over, and it's worked beautifully. What has been on it has changed over the months, depending on what I wanted or needed close. But pretty much, it has a water bottle. It has a lot of times some medicine on it in case I need medicine. Right now it has some lotion on it because my leg has been unbelievably dry. So I've been trying to put lotion on it. But that has been very helpful. So that was something, along with some of the other things I'll show you, that my mom and I, during those first 2 weeks when she was living here and helping me, we kind of just looked at it as like, okay, how do we need to get this home set up so that I could function on my own after she left? And that was one thing that we did, was I need a place to put things when I'm sitting on the couch. And so that was just an easy fix. Just drag the bench over. Okay, so before we move on further into the house, there are a couple other things that I wanted to show you over here. So the first is this towel here that looks like it's just a mess, which it is, but it's there for a purpose. And that is that the first time I went out and it was raining, I got back in and realized I need to dry off my feet, because even when I was in, with a walker, and I still am, I have to wear the boot all the time when I'm up and moving about. I can take it off once I sit down, but it has to be on when I'm up. And then my other foot has this elevator shoe, or like a lift sort of, so that I'm kind of on equal footing. This leg is still a little bit higher because that sole of that boot is very thick, but it makes it so I'm less lopsided. And so both of those things I wear anytime I get up, whether I'm going out or staying in. And so I realized as soon as I walked in the door, and I had been walking, out in the rain, I realized I need to dry off my feet immediately, or I might slip and fall because I have hard floors. And so there has been a towel here ever since that first time it rained and I went out. The towel has changed. I have washed them, but that way I never know if, it's going to start raining when I go out. So the towel is always there so that I can sit down immediately on the bench and dry my feet off. So the other thing that I want to show you is outside the door. But I just want to be cautious and not show you what the outside of my house looks like in case there are some strange people that want to find me sometime. So I'm not going to actually show you what's outside. But once my mom had left, I realized that I'm going to have deliveries and things like that. And I would need to be able to reach them from the door, because at that point I still could not put full weight on it. And so I did not even leave my condo without specifically my dad there to help me for several weeks. And so I needed a way to be able to reach any deliveries that were left for me without actually having to leave the door. So there was a table that kind of went with the lawn furniture that's on my patio. And my parents, as we were figuring out how I needed to change things to make things work for me, we realized, hey, having a table that was out there so that I could sit on this bench here and just kind of like open the doors and then reach out and grab whatever was there and bring it in was going to be essential. And so we put a table right outside. It's still there. It's not quite as close because I am able to leave now on my own and pick things up and all that kind of stuff. So, but it is still there. And it made things really helpful once my mom was not here anymore. So I think that's it for the front door and the front area here. So let's move on to the dining room. Okay, so the dining room area here looks like a disaster. I apologize. It is a disaster. But it is, it was basically kind of like a stockpile for like necessities. At the moment, I have been doing this artwork to kind of pass some time. Actually, I'm in the middle of making a vlog about the artwork that I've been kind of doing, so, you know, stay tuned for that in a couple weeks. But the rest of the table was kind of just meant to be where I could go to get necessities. And so, like, for example, there's a cleaner here if I needed a cleaner. Some of my medicine was, you know, all my medicine, not all my medicine, but a lot of the medicine that I had to take like on a, like with meals and stuff like that was right here. When I still needed to put bandages on the incisions, the bandages were right here. And then like I just started keeping the cereal and stuff here for the morning. That way I didn't have to like take it back and forth from the pantry. And then like bowls, I had stacks of water there, and then sometimes they would be in the fridge when I had someone to carry them over, because otherwise I'd have to do a couple bottles at a time. Plastic silverware, paper napkins, which usually in normal times I don't use, because I don't want to completely, you know, destroy the environment. But, you know, when you have a broken leg, you kind of have to do what you have to do. And washing dishes was not really going to be an option for me when I could not put any weight on it. And even 50%, again, it sounds like, oh, you're like, oh, 50%, like that's not so bad. Try it. It's hard. You get very tired very fast. And so doing anything where you're on your feet for an extended period of time is just very hard. So yeah, I did have to like switch to like plastic and paper and like water bottles and stuff like that. I have since kind of started moving away from that because I am able to do dishes now and stuff and stand on my feet. So it has kind of changed. But yeah, and they were all just kind of here really close. One thing that we did do that has kind of, you can kind of still tell, but it changes a little bit. Both of the chairs at both ends originally were turned to face like out with like the backs closer to the wall. Is simply so that I would have a place to sit quickly and rest if I just got too tired when I was up moving around. So like if I was in the kitchen doing something and I was just getting so tired, which did happen. Like I would get so tired from standing on that leg, like trying to like just make a salad or whatever, that I would just have to kind of like stop what I was doing and come and sit down for a minute because it would just be so tiring. And so these chairs were faced out. So it was just, I didn't have to worry about pulling it out or, you know, turning it, or they were just there ready for me. And so that was super helpful. Of course, the wheelchairs here, it's all, you know, folded up now because I don't need it anymore. But it's still here. Partly because we just haven't had an opportunity to take it back to my cousin, and partly because I was nervous that until I'm fully healed that maybe something would happen and I would need the wheelchair again. So it's still there. The first week and a half or 2 weeks, you know, when my mom was still here and I was still getting used to actually moving around, my mom would actually, because it was so tiring to go the length of this room with a walker, my mom would a lot of times like wheel me in the wheelchair, like from the couch to like here. And then my walker would be here waiting for me. And then I would use the walker, like that's the bedroom and the bathroom and stuff. So I would, you know, use the walker to get the rest of the way. But because I'm not sure how the wheelchair would fit in there. But it was just, you know, I was getting used to using the walker, and it was just, you know, my hands, I got blisters on my hands that first week from using the walker. And yeah, it was very, very tiring, you know, while I was getting used to it. And even after I got used to it, to be honest, but, yeah, when I couldn't put any weight on it. And so she would do that at least for that first week. And then after that, like I knew I had to start like working on doing it by myself. And so, some days I would do the trip there with the walker. And then I would say, hey, Mom, go get the wheelchair. And then she would take me back because it would just be, you know, very tiring. But yeah, so we kind of used the wheelchair. And then, of course, anytime I went out for an appointment or anything, the wheelchair had to come with us. But yeah. One other thing that I got recently, is this dustpan and broom because my floor started getting kind of messy, you know, and I could have maybe swept to a certain extent even when I was only, well, it would have been hard, but even when I was doing 50% weight on my leg, I could have done some measure of sweeping, but then like bending down, like to use a normal dustpan and sweep it into the dustpan would have been impossible. So my parents, when they were coming every few weeks, would sort of do some cleaning for me and help me out. But then, they haven't been here. Well, they were here a couple weeks ago, but there was a big stretch of time when they weren't here. And I was like, I need to do something to clean my home. And so I ordered that from Amazon, and it's staying there because I can't quite fit it into my broom closet at the moment because there's stuff for like my fish tank in there. But I actually like it a lot, and I'll probably keep using it even after my leg is fully healed. But I'll need to clean out the closet and take some stuff upstairs, and I just can't do that yet. So it's living there beside the piano for now. So a big part of what my mom and I had to figure out while she was here and before she left was, how do we make sure I have everything I need close? And so I kind of talked about that a little bit with the dining room and making sure the bandages and medicine and, the napkins and the water bottles were all within reach. Other stuff, upstairs is actually mostly guest room and then the library loft, which none of it is essential, but normal times I keep stuff like the extra toilet paper up there and things like that. And so we had to like rearrange. And so now all that stuff and the tissues and everything is down here closer. So that was just part of my mom and I figuring out how I would need to get around by myself when she was gone. Okay, so let's start in the bathroom. As much as I would never thought I would take you guys in here, I feel like I need to show you like this shower chair. So this, of course, is essential if I wanted to have any semblance of being clean. So this was like the first thing we ordered when my mom and I got back from the hospital. We knew we would need this. Now, after my surgery, when I first got back, I had heavy bandages on my leg. I have never had a cast, but I had bandages. But I was told that after 48 hours, I was allowed to take the bandages off and start getting it wet like normal. I was just had some certain instructions as far as like I was supposed to use like a different like washcloth or whatever on that leg than on everything else because you don't, infection and stuff like that. And I was supposed to use a clean one every time. I couldn't like reuse it the next day for the next shower. But that meant like, hey, after 24 hours, I was allowed to start actually like showering and stuff like normal without worrying about like covering up a cast or anything with plastic. So that meant I needed a shower chair right away. And so we got it. Let me flip you back around to you. So this was the one very similar, at least, to the one they showed us in the hospital when I was first meeting with the first physical therapists. They showed me this one that kind of goes partly in and partly outside of the shower and has also the back and the armrest. It has been very helpful. It's very easy. I like swing my legs, sit down, swing my legs in, and then I just swing my legs out when I'm done, and everything. So it has proved very helpful. I feel like I've seen pictures of other shower chairs where it's more like a stool that's like just sitting in the shower, and that seems very unstable. My aunt, the one who is the mother of the cousin that loaned me the walker and wheelchair, she told me a horror story about when my cousin had his broken ankle and he was using a shower chair, and it like somehow he fell off it, and the soap thing, like he grabbed it and it broke and it cut his, like it was kind of a nightmare story. So, but I do kind of wonder what kind of chair they had, because this one seems very stable. And not that I do anything like, acrobatic on it that might make it tip over, but I haven't had any moments where it felt like it was going to tip or anything. And I think, it is this type of chair. If you are in a terrible situation like this where you have to get a shower chair, get something like this, because it feels very stable, and it is adjustable. Like you could turn around, have the armrest on the other side, stuff like that. So this is just the way it worked best for me. If you see over there is a little stool. That's something that was just kind of like in my closet, and we realized pretty quick that it would be, the shower chair is kind of high. And so having your legs dangle, because they don't really touch the floor, is tiring. And then, so my mom found that and she put it in there, and it's just been very helpful to have my feet propped up on something, so that I'm not just, with my legs dangling like a toddler or something. So also, I don't know if you can see, if it's hard to see, my shower just automatically had, that's what the shower head was, which has been very helpful because I probably would have had to, to get one if it had not already been like that. It just took some practice the first couple times to figure out how to not get the entire bathroom flooded. So it took some practice, but I got the hang of it. And, now I don't get water anywhere except in the bathtub. So, sorry if this was a little awkward, but I felt like, if I'm going to talk about how to like be injured when you're by yourself, this was kind of an essential part. So, get a nice sturdy shower chair if you ever find yourself in a situation like this. Okay. And the bedroom, which I apologize, is, well, it's like this for now. So, all in, for making things easier for me. The hampers are usually not out here. They're usually in my closet. But of course, getting into my closet, even though it's a walk-in, especially when I had the walker, was impossible and potentially very dangerous. Because the biggest thing was making sure I did not fall a second time and re-injure myself. So, my mom moved these out here, so it was just easier to put like my dirty clothes right in there and then having to worry about the closet. Another thing that we, figured out while she was here and how to make things easier. Another thing she did was move the bike. Usually it's there, but it's hard to get to back there in normal times. Like I can't, I use it and I can, but up here it's just, I could just walk up to and get on it. Cause after just a couple weeks, my surgeon approved that I was allowed to start using this, to get a little bit of exercise and to get some, flexing the foot and stuff when you're doing the pedals. And it was just a good thing for me to do when I was like doing my physical therapy. So yeah, she moved that up so it was easier for me to get to. More pillows. I sleep with it elevated too. So yeah, that's the big lump under the covers. One thing, as I mentioned, it was hard or impossible to get into my closet. Plus, all the clothes hanging in my closet is not stuff that it makes it helpful or easy to wear. So, what we did was we basically, there's a stack of shirts and a stack of like pajama pants, like lounge pants, and fresh one every day, So, and then all my towels and stuff there, because as I mentioned, I had to use a clean towel and a clean washcloth on my leg every single time I showered. And so it was a lot of laundry at the beginning. And so to make it easier, my mom just piled all my towels and stuff there so I could just grab a clean one every morning. They're still there because, again, I would have to go into my closet. And even though I can now, it's not as easy. So it's just easier to keep them there. So everything I need is right there. They're probably going to stay there, for as long as I'm just kind of wearing, this lounge pants and t-shirts, because it's just easier. Okay, so sorry if this is too much information, but I want to give you, again, I'm trying to help you if this ever happens to you and you have to deal with it. So one thing that made it easier for both my mom when she was living with me and me when I was by myself, is I essentially only wore one pair of clothes for 24 hours. So I would put on a fresh pair of like cotton pants and a t-shirt after my shower every morning. And then I would sleep in those clothes in the evening, and then they would go in the laundry. And it just made things easier because, when your leg is broken like this, it's kind of hard to change, like you have to kind of get it off your leg and off your foot. And, if it's hurting that day, you don't really want to do it. And so it just made things easier and simpler if, I could just put on one pair of clothes and then that was it. And then, they would go in the wash. So sorry if that was too much information, but, if you are ever in a similar position, just keep that in mind. That might make things a little easier for you. Okay, in addition to my mom helping me, there have been other people that have really stepped up and helped me. And one was a friend from college, actually. And she, when, I posted on Facebook about what had happened, and she asked if there was anything I needed, and made some suggestions. I said, well, I don't have a reacher, but I was thinking about getting one. And she bought one and had it delivered to me. So this has come in very handy. If I drop, especially like when I could not put weight on it or only 50% weight on it, if I dropped something, bending over to pick it up was impossible, so this really came in handy. after my mom left, stuff like that. And even like sometimes I would come in here for bed and I would sit down and take my boot off and, get all ready and then realize that I had left the light on. And I would have had to put my boot on, my shoe on, and get up and like with the walker and walk over to the light switch. Well, with this, I was able to just kind of like reach over and flick it off. And so honestly, even for just that, this has been such a help, but it has helped me pick up stuff too. So this kind of lives right here by my bed in case I need it. Cause that tends to be the time that I find myself needing it, but I have taken it other places. It helped me when I started doing laundry on my own to like get all the laundry out of the washing machine and out of the bottom of the hamper, out of the dryer. So yeah, it's come in very handy. So thank you, Kelly, for that. It has really made my life easier. All right, so sitting back down because my leg has gotten tired, and that was basically a tour of everything down here. As I mentioned before, there is an upstairs, but the only things up there, it's my guest bedroom and guest bathroom, and then my loft library area. Sorry about the glare on my glasses. I apologize, but I'm not going to move, so sorry. But I have been just so lucky that in my home, which I love my home, everything that is essential is here on the ground floor. And that's just made things so much better for me. My master bedroom and bathroom is down here. The laundry is down here. And so it's just made things so much better. And another thing that has just made it has been really indispensable have been the people in my life that have come around and come alongside me to help me out. So I've already talked about my mom. I've talked about my cousin who loaned me the walker, the wheelchair, my friend who bought me that reacher. But there have been so many other people, and I want to make sure that you are aware of, what they did for me. First of all, my dad, even though he was not here during those 2 weeks, he has done so much. He bought me that, the saddlebags that I call them. Well, he and my mom, they bought those for me. As well as like some grips, because I told you I was getting blisters. They bought me grips for my walker. They ended up not working because there was so much fabric that wrapped around that my hand like could not close. So I was holding onto the walker like this, and it made me feel very unstable. Like I wasn't, and so I had to take them off. I couldn't use them because I felt like I was not very secure, and I had a much bigger chance of falling, trying to grip something like this rather than being able to hold it. Anyway, they bought me that stuff. I mentioned that they kind of came back and forth for a couple weekends. He did so much work, like on both he and my mom, but you've heard about my mom already. So, he did a lot of work. He bought me like a trellis for my garden. He did some work on that. He, did work around the house. He did all my grocery shopping for me when he was here. Did all the dishes. He did a lot of the cooking. And plus he gave up his wife for 2 weeks, and my parents are very close. They're best friends with each other, so, he, sacrificed and, was very lonely for 2 weeks, while my mom was here with me. So that was just, even though he was a little more behind the scenes, he did so much. And plus when he was here, anytime we went out, to the doctor's appointment, he was the one pushing my wheelchair, which was no easy task, let me tell you. Like, you don't think about it. You think of a wheelchair like, oh, it's on wheels. And then you try to push someone in it, like, over, like, uneven pavement, which pavement is not flat. If you think pavement is flat, try to walk on it with a walker or in a wheelchair. Pavement's not flat. And then, like, wheelchair ramps, like, to get up into, like, buildings, are sometimes kind of like steep. Like they're often, you can tell they're designed by people who never had to like actually do a wheelchair because they're not actually very helpful. And sometimes they're in an awkward position, like place. Like there's my parents, when they were in town, they would take me out to like a restaurant or something so I could get out of the house. And there was one place, I don't remember, even if I did remember, I wouldn't say the name of the restaurant because I don't want to like disparage them, but, we parked in the handicap parking, and then the ramp to get up was like over there, and so we had to essentially like walk through the parking, like through traffic, in the parking lot to get up. Like, why did you not put it here where the handicap? Anyway, it's just like stuff like that. Like sometimes you realize that sometimes the people who design the handicap stuff you realize that they have never actually thought about what it was like to be handicapped, because a lot of it isn't actually designed very well. So something that has kind of opened my eyes during this whole situation. Anyway, my dad has been amazing. On top of that, I had some women from church do a meal chain for me for about a week after and they would have done it for longer, but I had other help that I will get to in a minute. But after my mom left for about a week, all my meals were provided by a bunch of lovely ladies from church that I like sing on the worship team with and stuff like that. And so that was helpful, because even at that point I was 50% weight, but doing anything, even making toast, it was unbelievably tiring. And so them providing meals was just such a blessing and made things so much easier for me. So if you guys are watching, thank you very much. Then after so as soon as it happened, a lot of my family and different people started asking, what can we get her that will be helpful? And the one thing that we realized was, I'm going to need help with meals. So ladies, of course, I just mentioned with the meal chain that helped me out. And then a lot of my family, like two of my aunts that live out of state or out of the country in one case. And then some family friends that I've known my entire life. And then my work, my team at work, all contributed, and all of those people sent me DoorDash gift cards for substantial amounts. And so once the meal chain was over, I told them to hold off getting more meals, because I had, this other resource that I could use. So I started having meals delivered using these DoorDash gift cards that I had gotten. And those lasted me for weeks, that was a huge blessing. And I tried to use them so well, because DoorDash is not cheap, the fees and delivery, and all that kind of stuff is, it really adds up. And so I tried very hard to use them well. And so every time I ordered something from DoorDash, I made sure to make it count. So I would order from places where I knew that I could order several meals worth of stuff, several days worth of food that would reheat well, or, maybe it was a salad or something that, could keep in the fridge. And so I tried to really utilize the money that they gifted me, so that I did not run out real quick. And, it worked. Some of the orders that I did, would last me for 5 days. That way, I wasn't repaying fees, delivery fees, and all that kind of stuff. So if you are one of the people who gifted me a DoorDash gift card, thank you so much, first of all. And second, just know that I did try so hard to make sure that your money was used the best way possible. And I wasn't frivolous with it. So thank you. So the last person I'm going to mention is my best friend. And she helped me out so much. She was the first person I saw in the hospital. She came, that evening when I was actually in the first hospital, before they transferred me to where I was going to have my surgery. And she sat with me for several hours, pretty much until the people came to transfer me to the other hospital. She just sat there and kept me company. And it was just a blessing, that I had someone there to talk to. But past that, when my mom was here, she stopped by a couple times just to kind of chat with us and keep us company. She brought me ice cream one time, because I was like, hey, I could use something sweet. And so she brought me some ice cream. She brought me other, other things. After my mom left, I really had to rely on her for a lot of stuff. She would do just little things that I just couldn't do, like take out the trash. And she would help me with the laundry and things like that. She would pick up, if I had ordered from Kroger, she would pick up my order and bring it back, carry it inside, and help me put it away and stuff like that. There's so many little things that she helped me do. And yeah, so thank you. And to everybody who has helped me, everybody who's prayed for me. I know there have been a lot of you. Thank you. It has made a difference whether you're someone that provided, a meal or a walker, or if you just prayed for me, or gave me some companionship, when I was stuck here at home. Thank you. First of all, just know that your prayers actually did make a difference. The kind of break I had, like, it was bad. It was a bad break. And which is why I'm still healing, 12 weeks later. But I should have been in much more pain than I was in. It hurt. It hurt when it happened. It hurt when I was in that hospital, and there were 2 different times when they had to like straighten my leg, and actually set my leg. That hurt very badly. For the most part, I have been pretty pain-free. Like there have been times when, when I've had, take my pain medication and things like that. But even at the hospital, I remember the morning after I woke up for my surgery, one of the doctors that helped, with the surgery, came in first thing in the morning to, check up on me and, see how I was doing. And, he said, is the pain bad? We can get you some more medicine. I was like, no, I'm fine. And I think, they had been giving me pain medication through through the IV, but I think it was like time for more. And they expected me to be in a lot of pain and ready for more. And I was like, I'm fine. And that's kind of been like the whole healing process. Like there have been moments of pain. Sometimes at night it gets kind of painful. And so I'll take some pain medication. But when I left the hospital 2 weeks ago, when I left the hospital 12 weeks ago, I was given 2 bottles of pain medication, I think Percocet, and I was allowed to take it one pill every 6 hours or something like that, as needed. And I should have gone through those very quickly if I was actually in pain. I have not yet finished the second bottle. Like, I'm getting close, but considering how little pain I've had, that'll probably last me, the rest of the time. And, my surgeon, because I follow up with the surgeon every couple weeks. And, I asked him last time because I knew I was getting a little close to the end of my bottle and I wasn't sure how much longer it was, going to last. And I said, once I'm done with it, what over-the-counter medication do you recommend? And he said, if you need more, just let me know and I can write you another prescription. And, I got the feeling that like people with my kind of break would generally go through a lot more pain medication than I have gone through. So, if you've been praying for me, it has worked. And I know not everybody believes, but I believe. And, yeah. Now I'm getting emotional. That's just from gratitude from everybody who has helped me. When I start talking about the things that people have done for me, I get a little emotional. But it's really been not as bad as you would expect. There have been, it's been hard, I'm healing from a broken leg and I'm stuck in my house for a lot of the time. Or at least I was until I could start putting full weight on it. And so it hasn't been easy, but it could have been a lot harder. And that's been to the people who have been, who have helped me. So I guess I just, I want to leave you with this. And that is, if you are single or live by yourself, it's a shame that our country and our culture tells us that we have to be independent and looks down on people who ask for help or need help. Because that's really just so backwards, like we are not supposed to exist by ourselves. We are supposed to be part of a community, and community means helping people when they need help. And so, if you are someone like me who lives by yourself, make sure you're not alone. Make sure you are building community and relationships with people around you, not just because, hey, if you ever break your leg, you might need their help, but because it's going to enrich your life so much more. And so, yeah, just make sure that just as you live your life, you're not doing it by yourself, because you're going to find that your life is so much easier if you have people in it, and have people that you're willing to help if they need it and that are willing to help you. So, yeah, I guess that is my closing statement of this vlog. I hope that you never need this vlog. I hope that you never need the advice that I've given you. But if you do end up needing it someday, I hope that you have gotten some advice and have maybe taken something out of it that will make your time easier than it would have been otherwise. Well, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and a subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.